Now, this is an unusual boat. She's been very well maintained. This boat has had such an emotionally connected life. I kind of consider it a love boat. Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one.
Captain!
Randy!
Captain?
I'm tied up right now, but come on over.
What's going on?
Well, you know, every time I see the good old stars and stripes, I gotta stop and give it a salute, right? And this is a boat that Dennis Conner raced for the America's Cup in, and she's sitting right here, right beside a boat that we're going to be doing today. We are in Westbrook, Connecticut, at a safe harbor marina. What we've got today is another import. You know, we've had a couple of boats come over from Europe. It's going to be sold by the owner, who is the widow of the Norwegian second owner of the boat. They've had a wonderful time with this boat, and they've sailed it all over. Every year they would try to keep it in the water till New Year's and have a New Year's Day sail out in Long Island Sound out here. How much fun is that? Right behind me is a 36-foot contest hatch built by those lovely people in the Netherlands. And the contest boat company was started by a man named Ed Konjen, who was a Dutch timber company owner. And he decided he wanted to make boats, incorporating a designer to come in and help him put it together. He designed a 25-foot boat, which was tremendously successful. And this was in 1959. And they built 300 of the contest 25s. Really took the whole European continent by storm. They stayed with that design for almost 10 years. In 1974, the new house designer, a fellow named Dick Zoll, produced this boat behind me, the Contest 36. She was very popular herself. They built about 90 of these, and that's a lot, remember, in Europe. It's a very pretty boat. She's center cockpit, Ketch rig. She's solid fiberglass hull, solid fiberglass deck. No coring at all whatsoever. This boat was given a really thorough survey, much more so than a regular insurance survey. They did take measurements of the hull everywhere, and on a scale of 0 to 100 on their meters, you know, to check for moistures, it's like down in tens. 5. That's almost like the morning dew still left on the hull. She's a very dry, no absorption with balsa or plywood in the hulls. And the same numbers were done up on the deck too. We have a cast iron keel down here. This is held on by 8 rows of double bolts coming up from the keel, and we don't see any real signs of separation down here.
Yep.
See, it goes right up to the bottom of the boat, and so that looks pretty well intact.
I see a little bit of a bulbous flare out.
Yeah, it was just a way to help control the draft and give enough, as much weight as they could down low. We've got a little bit of a fairing out here for the prop. If the prop's coming out of the back of the keel, then the designer has put that engine as far forward as he could. The prop would then come right down out of the back of the keel and be somewhere in here. The engine's back in here, so they have to run the shaft out, and they can't run the shaft down sharply. They've got to run it out at a reasonable angle. So they come out here and they put this bit of fairing in here, and here's just a 3-bladed cruising prop here that you can actually hug, because there's no line cutter on there. And it's got a nice, pretty healthy zinc on that still. Very solid skeg here on the rudder. A lot of times they'll just put a piece on there to provide a fairing for it. And you've got a nice big heel plate down here, gudgeon for it, that is really going to support this rudder here. So there's no counterbalance to this. And also I can tell you, the applet of paint is still ready to go. We'll take a little walk around the other side. Looking at the bottom paint, she's had a couple of coats on here, and I guess I would come along pretty quickly and just have that blasted right off. All these little spots here on the boat that you see are not smooth, okay? And you think, oh, it's just, look at the size of the boat. How can it impact that? You get enough of them together, and it's just going to slow you down. Her top sides have got some nicks and bumps in it. And there's a little crazing in some of the original gel coat, I think. You're going to really appreciate. The head is going to be right here, because here's the exhaust, which is a bigger through hull fitting. Here's your water intake right here, and here's your exhaust right there.
Don't you want your exhaust downwind?
That's a very good question, a very good point actually. There's another inlet underneath this pad. I didn't see that, and this could be a sink drain. Did you say sink drain?
I think I did.
This would be below the exhaust, but probably the intake for the head. So Randy has spotted the rub rail here, and we like these rub rails. It's got a nice stainless covering strip on there. So you can bounce off a lot of pilings with this boat and not do any damage. Let's look at the bow for a minute, because it's a little harsher than we're used to. This is, again, sort of the old thinking where you have a sharp edge to divide the waves, right?
Yep.
And probably on this boat it works fairly well, because you not only have that, but you have the depth of this bow coming down and then flares out a little bit. There's actually almost a little concavity here.
So what do you think about the bilges?
Well, Randy, they're pretty full, so we're going to have room for the tankage, and she carries a lot of fuel. We're really coming out of early CCA design and transforming itself into the IOR period. And this was designed during the IOR period, so we're seeing some IOR touches to it. Not radical at all, but you have a nice full belly to her. The cast iron keel. We've talked about the buttocks on these boats. This flattens out a little bit, but they're very nice. It's a nice clean line coming back. The name of this boat is Calipigian.
Okay. Calipigian.
It's an interesting word, isn't it? Have you ever heard that word before?
No.
It's actually Greek, and you know what it means?
No idea. It's Greek to me.
Calipigian translates to finely rounded buttocks. And that's, here we are in the buttocks, and they happen to be finely rounded. What do you say we take a look topside? Randy, come on up.
All right, thanks.
We have a beautiful day here in Westbrook, Connecticut. And to be sitting on this boat, I wouldn't mind having this boat in the water right now. This is a center cockpit boat, and it reminds me a little bit of what other boat we've seen. What does this remind you of?
Kind of feels to me like the Whitby, but I don't know.
How about the Vindo? We have another cabin back here.
Yeah, about the same size, sure.
But this is a hydraulic steering system, and given our choice, we'd much rather have a push-pull arrangement so we could feel the response of the wheels and the sails together
and
as we're sailing along.
That would be cable driven? Or?
That would be cable driven.
Yeah.
And actually, Edson has a system that you can retrofit some of these boats with. Take a look at the glasswork here on the decks beside you. Look at this non-skid. This hasn't been repainted as far as I can see. Here's a couple of fittings here for a boarding ladder here to come a swimming ladder. Look at this thing. I believe these are English spars. Kind of surprises me to get on here and have this really nice Ketch rig. And this is stepped on deck right down here. And all your halyard lines and everything are right here for the helmsman, so you can make any little trim adjustments. And the cabin's got little handrails on it, and you can see the shrouds, the forward, lower, and the upper shrouds coming right down, melding into the cabin side, so they've got good strength there. I'll just go back here and we'll take a quick peek. We've got propane storage back here. Randy has spotted the cover that comes off, and look what we have on the cover. What do we like there?
Little gasket.
Gasketing, yes. So that's going to keep the propane in that locker, or it will drain overboard. And I saw a little vent line off the transom of the boat.
How big a vent line would you need off of that box?
Oh, tiny. I mean,
just one, it's fine?
Yeah, ½ inch. Propane is heavier than air. If it gets into the main cabin or settles down into the bilge like a fog, then you can have real problems. Now on the other side, we've opened this locker, and look at the depth on it. Look at the size and the amount of storage down in there. You see the exhaust line going out?
Yep, and the rudder shaft right there.
That's pretty tidy, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got a nice big hatch here for the after stateroom. Now, this is not a really big stateroom. And when we've had to walk down some tunnels on other boats, we're going to have to walk down a little tunnel on this one too. But remember, you're on a 36-foot boat. There's two really solid davit sections back here. Look at these. This is nicely done. They each have 4-part tackle on them. And I think they had a 8-foot dinghy that you might be able to negotiate if you were to buy this boat. And a really super boarding ladder. What he's done here, he's wrapped all these rungs.
I like that a lot, yeah.
So that's
anti-slip. What else can you tell me about the cockpit here?
We've got a compass, so you can find out where you're going. It looks like a Cestral. Ah, my gosh, Cestral compass.
Good guess.
You always recognize a Cestral. It looks sort of like a planetarium.
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't it? Engine controls are right in front of me, and those are pretty new because we have a new engine. There's a 30 amp 110 receptacle here for shore power to come on board, and we have a bilge pump. You can't tell, but there's no locker on the starboard side, is there?
Nope.
So what does that mean? There's a walkway there.
Ah.
And we're going to see, you got to get from that cabin to this cabin aft. But this is quite something to see. Pick this hatch up, it catches a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Now, look at this. You could hop down in there and stand up and just barely your head would be sticking out. And those look like his battery boxes right here. Here's the nameplate for the boat right here. See, Coniplex, which is Connie is short for the owner's original, the builder's original name.
I'm seeing some openings for some instrumentation here.
There are openings for it, and the instruments are down on the galley table, and they're all new.
Oh, okay.
So they're usable. And she does have a Dodge. She does not have a full canopy opening sort of thing. What do you say we head forward?
Yeah, let's check
Come
out
on
the
up.
foredeck.
So here's a classic example of some of the deterioration of plastic-coated lifelines. This has really gone downhill. Now, the wire underneath, I think it's 7 by 17, whatever it is, looks pretty good. I love walking along the deck. Look at the molded-in Genoa track down here. It's an inboard Genoa track. She's designed to go to weather, this boat. I like the little molded area there. So when you walk along, you're not going to tend to kick that. Notice this hatch with all the screws in it and the fittings in it and so forth.
Yeah.
That's designed to be removed to access the engine room. We have a nice big center saloon hatch for air and another one forward here. So there's a lot of air that's going to flow through this boat. She does get narrow forward here. It's a narrow boat. This is not that beamy a boat. I think she's 10.8, something like that. The Dutch build things heavily for heavy seas and heavy air and so forth. So if you ever had to get towed with this boat, these two cleats here would work perfectly. And there's two nice fair leads up on either side of the bow. We have a roller furling headsail and an anchor roller with a CQR on it.
Little peak.
There we go. We got a fair amount of chain down there, and there's also some rope tail on that as well. So they may pull it up by rope and then on the drum here and then switch over to the Wildcat for the chain. But all this boat is in really nice shape. Look at the non-skid on here. See the extra crossbars in here? Usually you just see, you know, the U-shaped bow pulpit. But these extra crossbars in here make this piece really stable. Here's a vent right here for the head. And we're at the spar. These spars were anodized, this gold color, and it does wear off. You can see it's wearing off here, and that was to, you know, keep them in good shape. That's an interesting plate. It's a little heavy duty for just a stopper.
I know.
But this track here, you notice right by your left foot, we have a spinnaker pole.
Yep.
And we love spinnaker poles, and here's the eye that the pole will go into on the mast, and this is adjustable. You can pull a pin out here and then slide this up and down on the track quite a ways up. And it's got internal halyards, and you put internal halyards on boats. Started doing this when they started getting into faster racing boats. The old wooden mess, you couldn't do it. But with aluminum, you have these boxes here with a set of double shivs in it, and the line goes up there and then goes way to the top of the mast, and then you one less extra line flopping around in the breeze out here. What do you notice here?
Yeah, a little boom furling.
You just turn this, there'll be a winch handle or a handle that will go in here and lock on those pins, and that will turn gears inside here, and this whole boom will rotate and reef the mainsail in. I think, Randy, it's about that time. What do you think?
I think so too, yeah.
Randy, I am once again ensconced in a really nice cabin here. And who does better woodwork than the Dutch? I mean, look at this. The finish on this looks like it came out of a machine. I mean, it's really gorgeous. And when I'm reaching over here, notice this post right here. What do you suppose that does?
Compression post?
Exactly. That mast is not going to move on deck. She has a molded headliner, you notice? We don't have wooden beams like we've seen on some other boats, and that's going to be really easy to wipe down after a day's sail, or, you know, just to give it a thorough cleaning. And we also have nice handholds on either side, and you can reach those from anywhere. And you are standing right between two big poles right here for extra stability at sea. Let me show you the galley over here. Interestingly enough, we have orange countertops here in Formica, and I think the Dutch like orange, don't they?
Yep.
Think they'd like our hats?
I think they would.
We should send one to Holland. This is cute because it reminds me a lot of European plumbing fixtures. They often have these little knobs. They have little buttons on the end for the idiots amongst us that can't tell that should be hot red and blue cold. And you know you're on a European boat when you find a Valiant geyser.
That looks really familiar.
It's because
That was on the PB.
we did. And these are great. This is a hot water heater. You can turn on a valve down here and get the gas flowing into the unit. And you start it up like you start up anything propane. And the water flows through a series of coils inside over the flame. You can get that scalding hot if you want to. Or you open up a little bit and it mixes cold water in with it at the tap. We have a very nice stove here. 3-burner propane. And I think this one might have been used. Let's just take a peek. Oh yeah, this one's been used. We like to see a little crumbs down there. Look at the push buttons on these doors and they just pop right open. And look at the finish on the inside. The Dutch are great at finishing everything. There's a gas line in behind here you can see to control the gas coming down to the stove. You want to shut that off. We've got the fridge. And these Europeans, you know, they know what to drink. And good solid thickness on the cover for insulation. And a nice tight fit all the way around. Of course, the gas heater, and then we have our water. And the tank, the sink is nominal. It's a little shallow for me. In the best of worlds, I would have it deeper, but it is near the center line, so that's good. This is a 120-volt circuit breaker panel right here, right beside that. There's some pieces missing here that we have to find out about what was intended in here. There may be electronics that fit here, but you can look down inside of them and look at that battery room. Let's come over to the other side. We always have the galley on one side and the navigator's home right here on the starboard side, pretty well wedged in. And we have an average chart storage place. Here we've got, I don't know how these work, but it's an on-off switch for things. And I don't know if there's a circuit breaker behind these. We'd have to sort that out and find out what the arrangement of this is. These may automatically pop themselves. It may be just a horizontal circuit breaker. So if you pull that on, you've made the connection. If it fails or there's interference, it might kick itself right off. And I'll bet that's how it works. You got battery voltage charger for both banks. These are water tank gauges, I think, port and starboard water tank gauges. And that's like a real gauge. You don't see that very often. It's got a little tiny compass up here just to give you a rough idea where you're going. Your radar is going to sit right in this bracket. And this boat is set up for the navigator to do the work down here, not the big unit set up behind the helm that we're doing on all these American boats now. We'll have GPS too on there for backup. Here's just access to some of the engine components. Sort of some dust in the bilge. I just like to find dust in the bilge, and I think we see a bilge pump right down there. It's fairly shallow bilge on this boat because it's not an internal ballast rig. We have here a VHF radio, and I believe this does have AIS on it. We're going to move aft. We've got a little tunnel to go through here.
Okay.
And we're going to move the captain through there.
Booty shot.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to get in here and turn around. And look at this sparkling baby. We like sparkling things, don't we?
Oh, we do.
Now, what do you think about that Beta engine? They had to rebuild the motor mounts for it and strengthen them and reset them because the old engine was so much bigger. There was a Volvo in there, and this is smaller, lighter.
Yep, I see the fuel filter, the water strainer.
Yep.
Muffler.
I think on the other side, I see a cap. Isn't that the cap without the piece underneath it?
Yeah, it's fuel. That's diesel.
So there's some things that have been changed in here and need to be walked through. Come on back to this cabin. Remember the window we saw, which was about the same size. It had a little mini cabin, but I think you might recall that the captain had a hard time getting into that little mini cabin, and then also a very hard time getting out. And this boat's only 1 foot longer. But she's got a little sink back here, so you can have a little, brush your teeth, wash your hands before you go to bed at night. And look at all the nice wood in here. Isn't this deluxe? There's access here to some of the components.
Haven't seen a compression post on an angle like this before.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but if they brought it straight down, it would interfere with quite a bit of this cabin. The boat it needs to be cleaned up inside. The ceilings over here need to be scrubbed down, tidied up, freshened up, and so forth. And these berths back here kind of fool you. They're big. You can see the size of that one on the starboard side. And captain's going to roll into this one. This is no problem getting in and out of. And I would be really comfortable if I had a cushion under me.
Any type of cushion.
Any type of cushion. We got shelf storage up here. We've got nice little lockers in here. Look at that.
Do you feel any claustrophobic back here?
I don't. And, you know, that's kind of interesting. I thought I might. I did on the window, I have to say. But there's a big hatch here. When I open that hatch, I know that we can get the captain out of that hatch. And we've got two ports on either side. They don't open. And look at see the 4 bolts along the side there?
Yep.
Those are the chain plates, basically, for the mizzen mast. On this another berth, there is a lee board.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And these are great because you can flop it down and you can actually climb out of it when it's up, but it's going to keep you in when it's down and you're rocking and rolling. So I'm going to head forward here. We're back in the main saloon, and again, really airy, nice big berth cushions, and all these have boards too. I'm going to pop this one up just to show you how well it works. You see?
Yep.
And it just folds down out of the way.
Is there storage under there, or is that tankage?
There's tankage under there. But there's storage up here. Look at more of these big lockers. Look how nice those are. And, you know, there's room for absolutely everything on here. No matter what you put in there, there's this is a little tighter than on some other boats. Let's take a look at the head as you come up forward here. It's got the basics. It has the new vacuum flush water closet in place, and the sink, and you can shower in there as well.
What's the advantage of a vacuum
Well, it's very easy, and one of the nice things about it is that it's very thorough. It's very powerful because you're dealing with a vacuum situation, and the handle to exhaust it to make it work is up much higher. We're up in our V-berth area, and we have a big filler piece here. You see, we love filler, and it's got a nice fabric on it. It's very, very pleasant. These berths aren't the biggest. These are set up both with lee boards in them as well, so you can come up here and sleep in a seaway. I'll give it a quick try, do you think?
Yeah.
We got enough room overhead, so getting up here for the old guy is not too bad, is it? Whoa! You know, it's surprising. What happened? I have a lot more room here than I would suppose. I got a lot of great light out there.
But no pillow.
But no pillow. God, I'm gonna give up on the pillow. I'm gone.
All right, good night.
Good night. Well, Randy.
Yeah.
How do we do it every time? We are so lucky. Now, this is an unusual boat. You don't find them in any marina. They tend to be a little shorter rigged than American boats that have to sail with light airs like the Chesapeake or early morning in the Narragansett Bay. In 1945, a young man of Norwegian descent was born in Queens, New York, of all places. And with a seafaring nature of his blood, he waited 52 years, but finally found his beloved first boat. He loved the boat, and he sailed that boat for 10 more years all over Long Island Sound. And as part of his sailing, he was in quest for his own beloved bride. She did appear around 2007, and they sailed for 2 years. And she said, well, he really wanted to make certain that I would be sturdy enough to be a crew member for life for this man. They got married in about 2009, and they took off, and they just sailed this boat all over Long Island Sound. Sadly, though, many good things come to an end, and our Nordic friend did pass from this earth, passed over the bar, and has left his widow with this boat for sale. The boat must move on to new friends.
How would you rate this boat?
I knew you were going to answer it. You know what, today I'm really ready for you because this is going to shock you in a number of ways. There's so many things about this particular boat that excited me. She's been very well maintained. And again, one of her finer points is the fact that she is only 36 feet. So it'd be really cheap to dock this boat. It'd be really cheap to take care of it. And single-handling would be a no-brainer completely. If it floats, it gets a 10. Because she's a 2-masted, solid, small cruiser, I'm giving her 8 right off the bat there. So she's...
Okay, fair.
It's an affordable price.
Yeah.
That gets 8 points for affordability.
Whew. Wow.
And you know what? Because this boat has had such an emotionally connected life. I kind of consider it a love boat. And for the love of the boat, I'm giving another 4. How about 30?
Woo!
30 for this boat, and whoever ends up with it is going to have a love affair with a wonderful boat on the high seas, wherever they go.
If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. So we're having too good a time doing these things, so you can hit the bell or not.
Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here
Yeah.
or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up on our next episodes a little bit early.
That's pretty cool. Previews. You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
You know, Instagram's not a place.